Ladies and gentlemen, sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago, one of the couple, two, three best podcasts around. So sit back, grab yourself a cold one and a Polish sausage, park your keister in the French room, and listen to Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose, as long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts, Alex and Sean. On this episode, we've got the Bears should have won the Super Bowl, the Bulls trading anybody for cash considerations, and ancient Blackhawks players not willing to waive their no movement clause. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford IceHogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford IceHogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You get to see the stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. Season is well underway, and you can see an absolutely fantastic product at the beautiful BMO Harris Bank Center in lovely downtown Rockford, Illinois, less than 90 minutes from the city limits. Fun for the whole family, affordable fun for the whole family. So head on over to icehogs.com, get yourself a hat, shirt, jersey, tickets, and more. Tell them Swerski Sports sent you. Alex, how was your Super Bowl Sunday?
What? Sorry, I fell asleep. You mentioned the Super Bowl. Well, no, it was good. I had some friends over. We ate some good food. We had some drinks. We had some laughs. Everything was good, but the game itself.
Yeah. So here's my Super Bowl experience. Maybe your Super Bowl experience was better. Maybe it was worse, but here was mine. So I went to the store and they were out of donkey chips.
Oh, I had donkey chips.
They did not have any donkey chips. So I had to get,
That's sad.
So I got Tostitos.
It's okay. Tostitos are pretty good.
Yeah. And I got some spicy queso dip.
Very good.
And I was like, I'm very excited to sit down in a bag of, and I also got a bag of spicy nacho Doritos.
Very good.
And so I'm like, all right. No matter what happens in this game or this halftime performance, I'm going to have a nice Super Bowl with my chips and my queso and deliciousness. So I don't know, a little bit before the game starts, my kid starts projectile vomiting and just
Wonderful.
Doesn't stop. So I sat with her holding a bucket for most of the first half. And then my wife came and tapped me out and she took over holding the bucket. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go down and watch a little bit of the game before I go back up and, make sure my kid is okay. So I go get my bag of Tostitos and I get my queso dip and the seal is popped on my queso dip.
No.
Yes, the one I had just bought from the grocery store earlier that day. This seal was popped. And apparently somebody must have dropped it because there was a dent in the lid. So
that's what usually happens. Yep.
So the seal was popped. And I'm like, it's probably fine, but I'm not taking that chance. So there, sitting on my counter still is the container of unusable queso dip. And I'm like, I'm not going to eat all these Tostitos without dip. I'm like, luckily I still have spicy nacho Doritos. So I sat there bored, watching the game, eating my nachos. And then Maroon 5 came on and made it worse. And then I had to look at what's-his-face's nipples. And then I'm like, I'm going to go sit with my barfing child. And that's my story.
That's rough. That's rough. Yeah, because like other than the game, I don't really have any complaints. I was with a few friends in my basement. We had some local pizza. We had some donkey chips and some dips. Yeah, so that was all good. It was such a boring game. I really don't have much to say about it other than, you got to give the Patriots credit for playing really good defense. You got to credit the Rams for playing some really good defense. Neither quarterback looked any good, and that was kind of a combination of defense and just the quarterbacks looking bad. I mean, Goff made some not so great throws. It's too bad because his best throw was batted away really nicely. And I'm sure you know which one I'm talking about. It was the throw right before the interception, the backbreaking interception on that last drive. I mean, that was a dime, but the Patriots defender, I can't remember who it was, made just a beautiful play to bat it away, or at least get there. He really probably should have caught it, but the Patriots defender did a good job of being there, even though it still probably should have been caught. But, I mean, overall, the quarterback play was not good. Some ill-advised throws, and Tom Brady, really the only good throws he made were to Edelman, and Edelman kind of made those look better by gaining some more yards on those plays. So, the quarterback play wasn't good. The defense was good. I mean, each team had an interception, but it really just ended in a lot of punts. No, fumble recoveries, not a whole lot of interceptions, just punt. It was the punt bowl.
Here's my thoughts on the Super Bowl. Number one, Julian Edelman was suspended this year, multiple games for use of performance-enhancing drugs. And then
I'll be honest, I completely forgot about that.
And then he went on to be the Super Bowl MVP. And take that how you will. Take that how you will, but it's a fact, an absolute fact. And number two, the Bears could have beat either one of these teams.
I know. That's what's annoyed me too.
It was so annoying. I mean, you know what? If the Patriots or the Rams would have come out and just manhandled one of the other ones, then you would have, I don't know, maybe I would have felt a little better being like, the Bears, just it wasn't their year. But after watching this game, I thought the wound had sort of healed, but that Cody Parkey wound just had the bandage ripped right off of it after this game, because I'm like, the Bears could have beat either one of these teams on that night.
Yeah, I mean, what I try to kind of tell myself is I don't know what they would have done in New Orleans. I mean, I know the Rams won, but that could have been a completely different game in New Orleans. I really don't know, but I definitely think this team could have beaten the Rams in the second round and in the Super Bowl in a rematch. I mean, look, the Patriots beat the Bears in week whatever it was in the regular season when Cordell Patterson returned a touchdown that should have been called back for holding and wasn't. But they played a really good game against them, and I think the Bears could have beaten them. No
Didn't
problem.
They have two defensive touchdowns? I mean, two special teams touchdowns that game. Wasn't a block punt as well?
Yes.
And there was two special teams touchdowns, and basically no Khalil Mack, and it still went down to a Hail Mary that got caught and didn't quite made it to about the 40-yard line.
Yeah.
That would have been the game tire. So you know what? That was the beginning of the season, and the Bears were playing better at the end of the season. Bears would have beat either one of these teams.
Yeah. Could have been the easiest path to a Super Bowl.
Yeah. Oh, well, next year.
Next year. Yep. Next year.
But
we're the new Cubs. The Bears are the new Cubs next year.
No, but excuse me, the Bears are going to win. It's not just a saying like what you say with the Cubs, right? Oh, it's next year. The Bears really will next year. I mean, you have almost all of the starters returning. We talked about this before. They brought back Bobby Massey, which is not surprising. I think we talked about it a little bit last week. We have the numbers on it, and based on just the summary of it, it's like a 5-year, $40 million deal. If you break it down, it's basically a 2-year deal with 3 option years,
which doesn't come to much of a surprise.
Yeah, I mean it's very smart on the Bears. They give, so you have Bobby Massey. If he plays well, he can earn all that money. And if he doesn't, he still got a nice payday up front. It's like a $15.8 million signing bonus. So, but all the guaranteed money's in the first 2 years. And then after that, it's it's, $8 million each additional year. So if he plays well, all right, you got him locked down. If he doesn't, you cut him and move on, and you're not locked into, you don't have to worry about, dead space or prorated signing bonuses you have to pay, et cetera, et cetera. It is just a clean cut. So, I mean, that is, a pretty fantastic deal, because regardless of what happened in the first couple of years of the deal with him, he played great last year. He was flagged for one false start, and he was rock solid, and he was easily the best option that you had for right tackle. And you're not going to go into next season having question marks. That's something a Jerry Angelo would do. That's something past regimes would do with the Bears, is they would leave question marks, and, well, we're going to try to do it in here. Is Ryan Pace, this is a championship caliber team. You can't have fingers crossed. You have to have answers. The answers may not work out. You could have, well, we got this guy to fill this spot, and he may get injured. He may whatever. But you need to have a legitimate answer for what your weaknesses, and not having a right tackle under contract that's starting caliber right tackle is a legitimate issue, and the Bears just solved it. We re-signed the guy that knows our system. We know him. It's front-loaded contract, and he was the best option available, and we just got it done before the Super Bowl. So it's locked up. It's no longer a question. So it was a very smart move. The other two major questions you have, I guess three, your kicker situation. We'll talk about that in a minute. You've got your nickel cornerback and one of your two starting safeties.
And I mean, those are fixable. It's not like it's glaring holes that we're trying to fill here. I mean, look at all the Bears teams of years past where we didn't have really a secondary at all. We didn't really have much of a front seven. We didn't have any receivers. I mean, there are some holes to fill, but they're smaller holes, and they're easy to fix. At least it's easier to fix a team like this where most of the guys are coming back than a rebuilding team with a lot of question marks.
Yeah, honestly, is you have Adrian Amos, who's a free agent, and I have a feeling that the Bears are going to tender him and then see what the market is, because the market's going to be very interesting for him, because statistically, based on Pro Football Focus, he's a very good safety, and he's coming from a very good defense, but he wasn't spectacular. He didn't make any amazing plays. And, one of the last plays he made was a boneheaded one that helped them lose a game in the playoffs. So it's going to be interesting to see what kind of money he gets thrown at him. So I have a feeling the Bears will tender him and just see what the market is. And if it's something that they're comfortable with, they'll match. If not, I think they'd be fine with Deion Bush. And then the other
Deion Bush showed some good things last year.
Yeah, so the other player is Bryce Callahan. And here's the thing. If Bryce Callahan was healthy and had a good track record for it, being able to play 16 games, I think it would be a slam dunk. You got to bring this guy back.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
But
I think that maybe,
sorry, go ahead.
There may be a possibility that because of those injuries, the market value of his may be a little cheaper, but I really don't know.
I don't know that one either. And he's a guy that you would love to have back if he's healthy, but it's never major injuries. We've stressed that before. It's always like something here or there that keeps him out 3, 4, 5 games a season. And that's rough. Especially if, you're going to be paying a guy as a free agent. If you pay him on a rookie contract, you deal with it. But when you're paying him as a free agent, that's a lot tougher to swallow, especially when you're getting a little snug with your cap room. So I don't know what they'd do with him. I would imagine they would love to have him back, but if not, I mean, I think you can move on without him. Yeah, I think you can make do, but he's going to be another interesting one. See what they do. I have a feeling that they will, see what the market bears for him. I just don't think he's going to accept a low ball offer from the Bears. I think he's going to have to wait and see what the league offers him. And
Yeah, I'd agree.
it's going to be tough because you've got so much money tied up in Prince Amukamara and Kyle Fuller that how much money can you really tie up in cornerbacks?
Right. And I think that these are guys that, to me, would be good to have. I mean, Amos, I think I could give or take. Bryce Callahan, when healthy, really does make a good impact. But if they don't get him back, it's not like it's going to be a back-breaking loss.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to. It's going to be a huge drop off if you lose either one of these guys. Like I said, it would be nice to have them back, but I just don't think it is. It is a backbreaker. So it's just going to be what the salary cap allows you to do, and what the market is for these two guys. Like I said, they're probably gonna tender Adrian Amos and see what the market is, and I don't know what they're gonna do with Callahan. We'll know in a couple weeks what Ryan Pace is thinking, but I have a feeling that they would, if they could only bring one back, it would be Callahan.
Yeah, I would agree. I think he's a better player.
Yeah, but like I said, it's going to see what the market is for these guys and what your salary cap allows, because like you've got all your starters for the most part locked up, but you've got a lot of backup positions that you need to fill, and those aren't big money guys, but those contracts add up real quick. $1 million here, $750,000 there. It cuts into your salary cap real quick.
Right.
And just looking quickly at the cap, and I may have done the math wrong, because I had to calculate in Bobby Massey's contract, but after Massey's contract, if you do a couple of moves, which I have a feeling they'll make, is cut Parkey, cut Sims, cut Acho, and hate to say it, I think they're going to trade Jordan Howard before the draft or at the draft. And that will leave you about $13 million in cap space for next year.
Yeah, because the salary for Jordan Howard goes way up, and so much for my Jordan Howard jersey I got last year, but wouldn't be surprised if it happened.
Yeah, I have a feeling that they're gonna move on from him. He just doesn't fit in what they're trying to do. If he ran for 1,200 yards, I think, again last year, I think then it makes you rethink. All right, well, that's what this guy's doing in the system, even though he's not quite our fit, we'll make him fit. But because he wasn't as effective as he had been in previous years, then you go, all right, well, his salary is going up. He's not fitting what we want to do, and his production has gone down. So, I think he's still got a lot of talent left in him, but it's going to be for a team that is better suited to his needs, and that's just not the Bears right now.
I do think you saw Jordan Howard's value towards the end of the season, because when they actually used him, you saw him, they used him well towards the end of the season. He was scoring a lot of the touchdowns. That last game against Minnesota, he broke off for some big runs and also got in the end zone. I really think that he just wasn't used to his full, how do I say it? He wasn't used to what he was supposed to do, but, I get Nagy's system is a very throw first type system, so Jordan Howard isn't exactly known as being a receiving running back.
Yeah, maybe you can just take some tape and put it over your Jordan Howard jersey. You could leave the H and then just cover up the Howard and put Unt.
Well, it would be a way to preserve a jersey. Because I had an old jersey, like a Cubs jersey, and I could take the names off and still keep the jersey, but you can't really do that with these NFL jerseys.
No, but there you go. You could just put an Unt over the Howard, and there you go. You've got your replacement there.
Well, they would have to sign him first.
It's I don't know. It sort of seems inevitable.
Do you really think it is?
I just think all the signs are pointing that way.
Elaborate.
I mean, clearly, it's a fact that Matt Nagy has thought about it, and he has talked to Kareem Hunt. And regardless of, if he only talked to him about non-football related stuff or not, moot point. He has talked to him. In the middle of hecticness, is Matt Nagy sat down and talked to the kid. So it's a fact that Ryan Pace has thought about it, because he said, we're not there yet, which means that they have at some point thought about it. Just they haven't gotten to the point yet of making a decision. So that means it is on the table. And when they talked to George McCaskey on Bernstein and McKnight, he also said that we're not there yet, which means that they've talked to George McCaskey to get his feelings, and then they floated it in a press conference. And I know what they didn't bring it up, but it was floated out there. The idea is out there, and I have the suspension's supposed to come by March, I believe. I have a feeling it's going to be 2, maybe 3 games, because it was not a domestic situation, and it's most of it is blown over by now. This because NFL is very knee jerk in the reactions that they have, and regardless, and this is not my opinion on anything. This is just me pontificating on what I think is going to happen. I think it's probably going to be a 2-game suspension, maybe 3-game suspension, but probably 2. And the Bears sign him. Most of it is blown over, and there's a dust up at the beginning of it. But by the time you see him in training camp and you're like, oh, dang, look what this guy's doing. Look what Matt Nagy's doing with this running back. And I just have a feeling that people are just going to not care, and he's going to be a Bear.
Interesting. All right. I don't know. I don't have enough information to really have an opinion on it. As in, I don't know if he's going to be a Bear or not. So I really don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I could totally be wrong, but it's like when you see free agents and you're like, in baseball, you're like, oh, they're totally going to sign here. And based on rumblings and the feeling you get, and sometimes you're like dead on, and sometimes you're like, dang, where did that team come from out of the blue?
I mean, a few months ago I said Manny Machado was as good as a Yankee, and it looks like that's not going to happen.
Yeah, so it's who knows what really is going to happen. That's just my opinion on it.
All right, fair enough.
And that is not my opinion of what should happen. Just my opinion of what I think will happen. Just differentiating there. But one last thing I wanted to bring up the Bears is, I should have started with this. Congratulations to Bears head coach Matt Nagy on being coach of the year.
Absolutely. I think it was well-deserved, and I'm really happy for the guy. It's funny. You look at the picture of him holding the Coach of the Year award that was posted by the Bears. you can look at his face. He wants the Lombardi trophy more than anything, but hopefully he gets us there. But it doesn't take away from the fact that he totally earned that award.
He did earn that award. He really did. There's regrets at the end of the season. There's definite mistakes that he made. There's definitely room for improvement. But boy, do I like the things that he did. And
to take that team from where it was to where it is now is quite remarkable.
And I know there's a lot of praise and love shown to the head coach of the Rams. But honestly, I like the approach that Matt Nagy has. It's I feel like you watch him on the sideline, it means more to him. He's living this and he's breathing this. And McVay you see a lot of pictures of him on vacation, out for dinner, fancy dinner, and I'm not saying that it doesn't mean a lot to him or he's not coaching hard or working hard. Just saying is you see a lot more of the breaks and the unwinding for him. Matt Nagy, I feel like game day is the reward for all the hard work, not going on vacation, not having a nice dinner. It is that game is what the payoff for him is. I think he's just as innovative and just as, creative as McVay, a few years older, but still really young. And I just feel like he's the better coach. And, this was his getting his feet wet, and he's going to spend all off season, looking at every single play, every single decision. I feel like he's going to go back and re-coach every single one of those games and, look at the plays and be like, oh man, why did I call that play? Why did I call this play? I should have done this. In this situation, I should have done that. And you're going to see a guy that just obsesses about it and is going to fix all of the issues that he found in himself last year.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that the biggest thing that speaks to all the fans is how he changed the culture here. I think that's a lot harder than it seems. People could come in and say, oh yeah, he comes in with a good attitude. Yeah, you could easily change the culture. Changing the culture of the Chicago Bears, a team like the Chicago Bears who have been around forever, who have all this history, to go in and change the culture, that's so hard to do.
And I'm going to go back to it is I fully agree that when Lovey got fired, it was time for Lovey to get fired.
I agree completely.
And anybody that argues that he shouldn't have been fired needs to go back and look at anything he's done after he left the Bears, and it's all been miserable. But the point is that since Lovey left, and Lovey had an absolute outstanding cast of players on defense, and there's a few outstanding ones on offense as well, but he created a great culture, but most of that culture was on the defensive side of the ball. You look, the people that absolutely loved Lovey and went to battle for Lovey were almost all defensive.
Look how
players.
much Brian Urlacher praised him over the years.
Yeah, but then you go back and you talk to any offensive player, and I don't know if you're going to find anybody that says bad things about him, but they're just kind of meh. They don't wax as nostalgic.
Do you think Jay Cutler's going to go out and build a Lovey shrine? I don't think so. Do you think?
Olin Kreutz doesn't wax nostalgic about Lovey. I mean, he doesn't have a bad thing to say about him, but it's just he just doesn't have that fondness of the defensive players. But if you look at Matt Nagy, is they all love him. They all are ready to go to battle. And as much as people are like, oh, he just turned the defense over to Vic Fangio, is he had his fingerprints on everything. He may have left the game planning and things into, the minutia to him, but he had his hands in everything. And those defensive players talk about Matt Nagy and how much they love playing for him, much more than they do saying, oh, Vic Fangio. Is you didn't hear anybody crying, oh, Vic left. Is like Coach Nagy. And that's the difference, is it's a full team culture. And we haven't had that in a long time.
Go back and watch the 2012 season. When they were 7-1, that team looked like they were like heavy Super Bowl contenders. And then watch the way they faltered. I mean, that pretty much sealed Lovey's fate with the franchise. And look, Lovey did a lot of things here. You can like Lovey Smith and also say, hey, it was time to move on, because that was what it was. He brought him to a Super Bowl. He had a number of good years there. He brought him to another NFC championship. But, I mean, when you miss the playoffs 2 years in a row, when you start 7-1 and 7-3, granted, 2011 happened because everybody and their mother got injured, but when you start 7-1 and you don't make the playoffs, and you look just absolutely dominant through those first 8 weeks, to see things fall apart like that, especially that game against Seattle at home that pretty much sealed the fate of that season, it was time to move on.
Yeah, but even just the point about a whole team culture is it wasn't even like that for the 85 team. There was the offensive players who were very loyal to Mike Ditka, but when you talk to those defensive players, is some of the more quiet and reserved ones. I mean, none of them are really quiet and reserved, but the more vocal ones will definitely just absolutely flat out and say, no, Coach Ryan.
Hey, no one can make culture like Ditka.
But, maybe a Dan Hampton will be a little more politically correct about it, fridge, but, you talk to a Mongo McMichael, he's not going to mince any words. And, he's going to talk about Buddy Ryan. And there was a definite rift. It was the offense versus the defense. And there was like that a lot with, not to the same degree, but a lot like that with Lovey. And it's just not like that now. This is a team. And, if you say something bad about one of the players, is not just his the counterparts and his comrades on that side of the ball, but on both sides of the ball will come, to their defense.
Yeah, that says a lot. It really does.
I love it. All right. You want to move on to baseball, basketball,
Sure.
or
Baseball?
Baseball? All right. Guess what? Bryce Harper and Manny Machado still haven't signed anywhere.
Here's my shocked face. You can't see it, but it's blank.
I'm at this point, it's just annoying. It's like the suspense is over, and you're just like, come on, I don't care where you sign anymore. Just sign somewhere. Get over this so we can move on. I mean, pitchers and catchers report in what? Like a week?
Yeah. And if you remember, Darvish signed on the 10th of last year, so it was almost a year ago, but these are big superstar offensive players.
Yeah, so there's a good chance that once the rest of the pitchers and catchers have reported, that they're just going to be like, I don't even have a team yet. I'm just chilling.
Honestly, what I think is going to happen is spring training is going to start, and then just one day they're going to be out of camp.
I mean, probably. Yeah. It's just ridiculous at this point. Everybody's like, oh man, suddenly the Padres are in on this. Neither one of those guys is going to the Padres. They want to win. The Padres, I don't care what the Padres farm system is. The Padres are not winning anytime soon. There's mystery teams. Oh, the Cubs have checked in on Bryce Harper. Yeah, the Cubs are going to keep checking in. Price drop? Nope. Will he accept $10 million a year? Nope. All right. We can't afford him. They're going to keep checking in until he signs, but the Cubs aren't getting him. I think it's going to be Bryce Harper to the Phillies and Manny Machado to the White Sox.
Yep, I agree.
So just cut the suspense, get on with it. The White Sox, I think that just really reshapes the direction that they're going in a big way.
I think it makes them contenders, honestly.
In that division, yeah, especially if
Yeah.
the rumors are true that the Indians are going to trade what's his face, Corey Kluber.
I know those are looking less and less likely, but it still would make them contenders in that division.
Yeah, but they're definitely going to be contenders with a Manny Machado. Absolutely. So that gives them hope and, an absolute, monster bat in the middle of their lineup. And I think it really helps Yoan Moncada. And it really makes them a better team. My buddy Gary is convinced that the White Sox won't get him, but I think that's just a mental defense mechanism. To
not be disappointed in case it doesn't happen, because I do that every time the Cubs are in on some big free agent.
Yeah, and but as a Cubs fan, I'm very hopeful for the White Sox. I mean, I say that I'm not saying I'm a Cubs fan to poo-poo the White Sox. I'm just saying is I don't have that anxiety. I'm looking at it in a much more rational light. I just think that he's going to the White Sox, and I think it's going to be a cool thing.
Because where else would he go? If the Phillies get Harper, who else is really in on Machado other than the White Sox? The Yankees are pretty much out. The Dodgers are out now with their signing.
Yeah.
It would probably have to be San Diego making a bigger offer money-wise. That's the only way I could see it. Now, they say there's these mystery teams, and I don't know about that. I heard a rumor that one of the mystery teams, and I don't think it's true at all, was the Marlins, and who the hell would want to go there?
No, because that team's a disaster. And
you'll be playing in front of two people.
I just also think it would be funny if Manny Machado came to Chicago and it would just watch the Brewers fans' heads explode.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
I mean, they wouldn't have exploded as much as if he went to the Cubs, but still, just seeing him in Chicago, just 90 minutes away, and just watch their dumb faces froth. Here we touched it to hit our guy. That's a Brewers fan.
I didn't understand a word you just said, but that was entertaining.
It's my Brewer fan imitation.
Okay, then.
So the Cubs have made another couple bargain basement bullpen signings. Christian Bergman, who was an absolute that was an absolute Theo Epstein putting on his minor hat and his full body, a dive suit, and diving in a dumpster, trying to find something. Because what they got is a guy with a career negative .3 WAR, a 1.5 WHIP, and a 5.6 ERA.
Yeah. Hey, maybe he'll be one of those guys that magically turns around for a year with the Cubs, as he's found in many years past. He just looks for washed, no-name guys and can get something out of them.
But more likely, he's going to be the guy that just pitches innings in spring training until they go, hey, yeah, we're not going to need you. And then he goes, signs a AAA deal somewhere. And yeah, the Cubs know that he won't throw his arm out because he's been there before, and he can pitch the whole spring training without getting hurt. I think that's what more likely. And
probably.
If he does pitch well for some miracle reason, comes out of nowhere, then you got him for, a few nickels. But more than likely, you just go, meh. He didn't throw his arm out. He knows what he's capable of, and he just pitches to what he can pitch, and made it through spring training, gave us the innings, and there we go.
You can't expect much from a lot of these little signings. Every now and then you'll find something that works, but it's not like you lose anything by these. So it's okay that he's getting as much depth as he possibly can.
The other signing was a little more interesting. Tony Barnett. They got him for $750K.
I read that as Tony Bennett at first.
That would be funny.
If I ruled the world.
He's old. He's 35. I say that at old. I'm much older than that, but
Tony Bennett's in his 90s, so
yeah. I mean, Tony Bennett's in his 90s, so if you look at what he's projecting at 3.89 ERA, 1.3 WHIP, 44 innings. And if you get that for $750K, you take that. But more interestingly, and that's, somewhere around his career numbers. But last year, he actually had a nice year. He had a .911 WHIP, 2.39 ERA, and a half game WAR. For getting that guy at a couple days before pitchers and catchers report for $750K. I mean, that's not a high leverage guy, but that's a low leverage reliever that you're getting at bargain basement prices.
Yeah, again, that's a typical Theo move for the bullpen. But I thought that was a pretty good one.
And that's really what he's doing. Is he's finding what he's hoping are diamonds in the rough. And if somebody shines to the top, then you ride them out. But if they don't, it wasn't like you invested a lot.
Not much at all.
No. So, I mean, maybe the Cubs make another one or two signings, either like a very low level, non-guaranteed contract or a minor league contract with a major league training camp invite.
There is a name out there actually that they may be in on more than we think. His name is Bryce Barper. I don't know much about him, but I hear he has some stuff to offer a team.
Does he have
talent-wise?
I hope he has a mustache, because he's not really Chicago without a mustache.
He also, it's really weird. Under that mustache, he has one of those goatees where it looks like just like a little noodle that kind of just loops.
Just talking about goatees. Did you ever notice baseball players are always like 5 or 6 years behind the haircuts and facial hair? It's like such a long season that they don't get time to interact with everybody else in the world. So it's just like they have to wait for, they're like, oh, wait, that's the cool haircut. All right, let me go get it. And they realize that they were looking at a magazine from, 6 years ago.
No, I know what you mean.
The goatee is still really cool in Major League Baseball.
Oh, it flies high. I mean, you see a lot of pitchers with it.
Yeah, you're going to have the goatees that are popular, the mullet, the lightning bolts in the side of your hair. Like you're fighting Hulk Hogan in No Holds Barred.
Right on. I mean,
have you seen the movie No Holds Barred?
I have.
Okay. So I was about to say, if not, you need to go watch that. It is a classic.
Yeah, it was on an obscure cable channel recently.
I have it on Blu-ray.
Oh, very nice.
My collection is all like Chuck Norris movies. Is my in 80s action and comedy movies.
You have any of the Rambo movies?
I have every Rambo movie.
Do you have Turkish Rambo?
I don't have Turkish Rambo.
Have you ever heard of Turkish Rambo?
I have heard of Turkish Rambo. I have every Rambo movie on multiple formats. I have them on DVD, Blu-ray, and digital. I have every Rocky movie. And this is including John Rambo, the one afterwards, which is my favorite Rambo. And I have Rocky Balboa. And I have all of those movies. I have Over the Top, which is I don't know if you've seen that one. It's the movie where Sylvester Stallone arm wrestles for the custody of his child.
Oh yes, I've seen that scene. Yes.
They said that's basically that movie, which is a great one. There's a guy that drinks motor oil.
You have,
and they created. This is how cool the '80s were. They made an action figure line based on a movie about a truck driver arm wrestling for the custody of his child. So yeah, that's my movie collection.
2 questions for you. 1, do you have Roadhouse?
I do.
Okay, I was going to say, if you don't have Roadhouse, I would be pretty disappointed in you.
Have you ever seen Roadhouse 2?
No, I've only seen the first one, and I haven't even seen it all the way through. I've just seen bits of it.
Roadhouse 2 is awful. It is awful. It is not a movie you want to see.
Is it as bad as Caddyshack 2?
I think it's worse.
Wow. That's... Wow. Okay, so I'm looking at IMDb. Roadhouse 2 has a 4.5 rating. I'm surprised it's that high. And Caddyshack 2, that's 3.7.
I will argue. But then I also have another gem in my collection. You know, now we'll loop it right back to sports, is the Brian Bosworth masterpiece that is Stone Cold.
Oh, you have that.
I do. I make sure I see it at least once a year. It is a great movie.
Here is a movie I would like to bring up related to Chicago sports because of how awful it was. Did you ever see Michael Jordan, An American Hero? The biopic of Michael Jordan?
No.
Have you heard
I was
of
hoping you were going to bring up Space Jams, but
No, that's a great movie.
Space Jam is great. And if they ever remake Space Jam with LeBron James, I will boycott Hollywood. But I have not seen this movie that you are referencing.
Have you heard of it?
No.
Well, it's kind of not surprising because it's really bad. It came out in 1999, and I don't know if you know who Michael Jace is, but he plays Michael Jordan. I don't really know much about Michael Jace other than that he was in State of Play and Strange Days and The Replacements, but he played Michael Jordan in this movie, and this movie has a 4.4 on IMDb. It's it's inaccurate too.
I know who this guy is. He was on The Shield.
Yes, he was. But yeah, this movie it's so bad that I think everybody forgot about it. Because you would think a biopic about Michael Jordan would be remembered, but it's clearly not.
How did I never see or hear about this movie?
I'm going to tweet about it. I'm going to tweet the link on IMDb. So if you go on my Twitter, I'm going to have it on there. I only discovered it because I was just watching some Michael Jordan highlights on YouTube a while back, and I saw it on YouTube, like the full movie. I'm like, oh, is this a documentary? No, it's a biopic.
This is amazing. I'm gonna have to look up if there's it's streaming anywhere because I need to watch this tonight.
Yeah, it may still be on YouTube. I'm gonna look now, but when I watched it, I cringed. I mean, Michael Jordan doesn't even play himself, obviously. Yeah, here it is. It's on YouTube. The full movie is on YouTube.
Sort of like the He-Man movie is on YouTube.
Oh, it was a TV movie too. Okay. So it wasn't theatrical. It was a TV movie.
Sort of like the great Philadelphia Eagles sports movie, the garbage picking, field goal kicking Philadelphia phenomenon, starring Tony Danza.
I've never even heard of that. I have never, ever heard of that.
Yeah, the garbage picking, field goal kicking Philadelphia phenomenon from 1998.
Wow.
It was a Disney movie about a Philadelphia garbage man who develops his leg muscles from kicking the hydraulic lever on his truck, and he's discovered by the Philadelphia Eagles and signs as a professional kicker.
Okay, then.
As you do.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah, it stars Tony Danza.
Yeah, Tony Danza. Has he even done anything lately?
Probably something terrible. Tony Danza. What has he done? He did a TV show called The Good Cop, which got canceled after one season. I think it was a Netflix
Yeah, I
show.
think it was.
And a bunch of other stuff I've never heard of.
What was the
But yes, it was a terrible movie.
what was the movie? Was it about? Did it have Bronco Nagurski in it, or like it wasn't actually Bronco Nagurski, but it involved Bronco Nagurski? Like someone was playing Bronco Nagurski in the movie. Was it Bronco Nagurski? It was a football movie.
Are you talking about Brian's song? About Brian Piccolo?
Yes, Brian's song.
Are you talking about the original or the
original?
Remake? The original is great.
It is. I haven't seen the
With James
remake.
Caan and Billy D. I've never seen it either, but it's got what's his name? Mekhi Phifer in it.
The remake.
Mekhi Phifer. Yeah, he plays Gale Sayers. But yeah, the original.
Yeah, because the original was Billy D. Williams.
Yeah, Billy D. Williams and James Caan. How do you beat that?
Yeah, right. And Jack Warden was in it. Yeah, that was a great movie. Yeah. Why was Bronco Nagurski the first person to come up in my mind when it was about Brian Piccolo and Gale Sayers?
I have no idea, but
I don't know.
But yeah, that is such a great movie. I have that on DVD. I wonder if they made it on Blu-ray. I hope they did. You need to see it in like high.
I would imagine they would have. Yeah, but no, that's a football classic.
Yeah, that is. Ed O'Bradovich plays himself in it.
Why? Yeah, that's right. That's right. Ed O'Bradovich, James Concannon.
So good.
Abe
so good.
Gibron.
Yeah, so we've gone way off topic, but here's the takeaway. If you've never seen Brian's song and you have a heart and you're a Bears fan, you need to see it. It's a must see.
The original.
The original.
You're talking the original.
I can't say anything pro or con about the remake because I've never seen it. But the original with James Caan and Billy D is fantastic.
Yeah, that's. I think it's still on one of the all-time classic football movie lists, like with Remember the Titan and The Longest Yard, as it deserves to be. And I am so sorry I blanked on that title because it's been a while since I've seen it. I think the last time I watched it was in like high school, but I remember how good it was. And again, I don't know why I was thinking Bronco Nagurski when it was Brian Piccolo.
Yeah, so I mean,
maybe that's because I love Bronco Nagurski so much.
Yeah, so I mean, it stars Sonny Corleone and Lando Calrissian.
Pretty cool, huh?
And it's
hello, what have we here?
And it stars that both of them in the movies before they were Sonny Corleone and before they were Lando Calrissian.
That's true, because that was what, in the 70s they made that?
Brian's song came out in 71 and
71.
The Godfather came out in 72.
Oh yeah, that's right after.
Yeah, so that is, and then Billy D was Lando, and that would have been 80 and 83. 83. So yeah, let's loop this back to sports and wrap this up. So baseball, yeah, I don't expect anything big for the Cubs. Another couple, Theo garbage heap reclaims and retreads, and you'll expect to see Manny Machado on the south side in about a week. Book it, Dano.
All right, how much you putting down?
$10.
$10.
$10. Anybody listening, you want to bet $10? Manny Machado.
All right. Got $10 on the line there, I see. Very nice.
I'm a big spender. All right.
You could buy several bags of donkey chips with that.
You could. And you could buy like a couple of jars of already opened queso.
That too. It was not a good Super Bowl for queso last night.
No.
If you know what I mean. If you get the joke.
I don't.
Okay, so there was I can't remember who made it, but somebody made queso. Oh, it was Donna Perino, and she made this queso, and it like looks like sewage.
Ugh.
Look it up on YouTube. Not YouTube, I'm sorry, Twitter. And everyone's making queso jokes now.
All right. Do you want to talk Blackhawks or Bulls?
Let's talk Hawks. I got a few Hawks thoughts.
So, the Blackhawks are riding a 4-game winning streak right now. And for some reason, Blackhawks Twitter is just thinking that this team is Stanley Cup bound. And I just want to say, pump your brakes.
Pump them a lot.
Because sure, they won 4 games in a row. They're still 5-3-2 in their last 10. And sure, they're only 5 points out of a wild card, but they also have the fourth worst record in all of hockey. And in order to make the playoffs, not only would they have to make up that 5 points, they would also have to leapfrog the Ducks, Edmonton, Arizona, St. Louis, Colorado, Vancouver to get in. They have to leapfrog like 19 teams to get in. And they are much closer to being at the bottom than they are in the playoffs.
The Kings are the only team with fewer points, I believe, in the Western Conference.
That would be correct.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at their playoff odds.
Which is really sad because like several years ago, that would have been the matchup for who was going to win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, 2 years in a row.
And now that is the matchup for who's going to get the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, looking at the odds now, this is on Hockey Reference. Their odds to make the playoffs right now are 5%. And the only team with worse odds, you guessed it, the LA Kings.
Yeah, so I sure they're playing better and it's much more enjoyable to watch the games, but let's be realistic here. Patrick Kane is just playing insane.
The best he's ever played.
And yes, and your offensive stars are playing like offensive stars. So, yeah, now you're scoring a lot of goals, but your defense still sucks.
I mean, the frustrating thing is, you look at their record right now, still sub 500. No surprise there. They're in last place in the division. It's just 24 and 9. If you could have won some of those overtime games and you didn't have that really awful stretch from like, what was it, late November to pretty much the holidays, things would probably be a little different. Fact of the matter is, though, you're probably not a Stanley Cup winning team regardless. So in the end, it may be better to not make the playoffs barely than, getting in and going nowhere. But the Blackhawks look a lot closer to the playoffs than they actually are. It's almost like they're driving on terrain that's folded like a map, and then all of a sudden the map unfolds and you realize there's a lot more distance.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that. It's nice to see that they've got the possibility of getting a really good draft pick, but you're seeing the potential for being good in the future with the
Right.
right moves. I think that's promising. It's much more promising than, let's keep this together with, some wire and duct tape and hope we can get to a Stanley Cup because the cliff is coming. Like it's much more enjoyable than the second way. So yeah, it's fun to watch hockey again, and it's nice to see Jeremy Colleton getting results. Just imagine what he could have done with this team had he had all training camp and the beginning of the season to work with this team rather than just getting a dumpster fire handed to him.
Yeah, at least it's entertaining to watch them. It's not totally painful. But hey, their chances are still very slim, and I think I'm not letting this team get my hopes up at all. Plus, you look at the stretch going down, every team right now has a game in hand ahead of them, and they would really have to beat all of these teams to even have a chance. It's just very, very unlikely.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not having any delusions of them doing something, but it's at least enjoyable to watch. The power play looks great. You're seeing goals being scored. It's exciting hockey. It's fun to watch. Even when they're not winning, it's still fun to watch. There was a stretch in there where it was not
Not at
enjoyable
all.
to watch. It was painful to watch. I like watching the Bulls now. It's just painful, but this is actually fun to watch. And I had a friend text me the other day, something very similar, that it's fun to watch them again. They're just a lot more exciting. And sure, they have a 5% chance of making the playoffs. I don't care. I mean, honestly, I would much rather have them have an awesome draft pick than get knocked out in the first round of the playoffs. Call me.
And the other thing is you don't need a number one draft pick to find someone really good in the NHL. It's not the NBA, but you still want a good draft pick. Well, of course it would be, but they're not bad enough to get that number one pick. I think we got to pretty much accept that. I mean, look at the Ottawa Senators right now. They're terrible. Look at the Columbus Blue Jackets, not the Columbus Blue Jackets. The New Jersey Devils are starting to struggle. You look at some of those other teams like the Kings. I mean, they're bad. So I think the Blackhawks are definitely going to finish with a top pick. I just don't think it's going to be the number one pick.
Based on Tankathon, they have the fourth worst record, and they have Ottawa. I guess Colorado has Ottawa's pick. So they have a 49.4% chance of getting the top three pick and 18.5% chance of getting number one, whereas the Blackhawks have a 28.8% chance of a top three and a 9.5% chance of the number one overall. So, yeah, I mean, they still got a very good chance to get the number one overall pick or a top three. Which would be awesome.
Yeah, I could see like third. Like I said, I just don't think they're bad enough to get that. I know it's a lottery, but I just don't see it.
I mean, even if you have the worst record, it's less than a 1 in 5 chance of getting that number one overall pick. So it's not like it's that great of odds to get it. So they do spread it out pretty good. Unlike the NBA, it's a little bit higher odds to get that first overall pick when you're terrible, but you can fall pretty hard. Hockey seems like it gives you I'd have to pull up mathematics of it, but it seems like you have less of a chance to get the number one overall pick. But if you're a bad team, you don't fall as far, which I think is probably better. I mean, that really sucks if you're like a terrible team and you're like, one of the two worst teams in NBA, and then you fall to like the 7th or 8th pick, and you're just like, all right, we just had a terrible season. And then we get crap pick. 7. If you're not a top 5 pick, you're getting crap in the NBA.
Right, exactly. It's a little different, so we'll see.
So we have two weird reports this week that almost immediately got debunked, but I don't know if I still see smoke and I still think there's some fire somewhere. But the reports are that the Blackhawks have gone to both Duncan Keith and Brent Seabrook and asked them about waiving their no trade clause.
Well, and then you heard that those were completely false today, so
But that's what I'm saying is, sure, the player said never heard of it, but does that mean that I just still think there's where there's smoke, there's fire, and either
yeah,
the
I
player's
do
trying to
agree.
save face or it's been leaked to the media to see what their reaction is. And follow me along because there's a lot of weird stuff in sports. Is you float it out there via the media, see what the reactions are, and if they seem like, man, I could go for it because I would like one last chance to win it. Then you can go, oh yeah, we'll give you that opportunity and really try to trade you. But if they're like, absolutely, I would never want to leave the Blackhawks. This has been my home for so many years. I've great, blah, 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 whatever. And you're just like, oh, no, we didn't say that. I don't know where that came from. So it's a way of Stan finding out the answer without actually asking the question.
So here's my kind of question. I kind of have different feelings. Like I'm thinking, okay, maybe it was just a false report. Maybe it's what you were saying. Do you think it's possible? And tell me if this is completely ludicrous, but they really did have that conversation, and Seabrook was just kind of told like play dumb, or he just decided to play dumb. I know it sounds completely way out there and doesn't make much sense, but do you think that's at all a possibility?
I don't see that. Like, I'll play dumb. I just don't see Stan just being the guy going, oh, hey, what do you think? And maybe Duncan Brent Seabrook was just feeling a little bit embarrassed that he got asked and he said no, and he's just like, oh no, that never happened. So there's a lot of different possibilities. I mean, either this is completely bogus report, which is possible. It's completely possible. Or it could be a leaked story trying to get a reaction. It could be that this really happened and the player's just trying to save face, or shades of any of those. So I guess we'll never know. But even if Brent Seabrook was like, oh yeah, totes trade me wherever you want to trade me, I don't care. The guy after this season has 5 years left at almost $7 million a year. Who is taking that contract?
No one's taking it.
That is a top 5 hardest contract to trade in the NHL.
He's going to be here. He's not going to get traded, no matter what.
Absolutely. Nope, not getting traded. So, get off of that bandwagon. He is not going anywhere. Duncan Keith, maybe, because his contract is a little bit more agreeable, and he's got a little bit more utility, and his greatness was a lot high. I mean, not taking anything away from Brent Seabrook, he was an important cog in 3 Stanley Cups, but Duncan Keith is a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I mean,
so
Brent Seabrook scored some of the clutch goals in the playoffs. Duncan Keith just played lights out defense in his prime.
So it is, it's a little more likely, if Duncan Keith was to approve a trade request, that he could be moved. And, honestly, is if you're the Blackhawks and you get one of those two off the books, that gives you a whole lot more breathing room. You can eat one of those contracts. Eating both of them is real hard.
Right. It is. It's a lot of money. But the good news is the cap is going up. So you will have some cap room in the future, and it is going up. So it still hurts, but it's not, how do I say this? It's going to get a little better because the cap is going to go up and there will be some other guys off the books. So it will still be on there, but it'll just hurt a little less, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I just think that both of those guys will be here. What is the trade on, like the 25th of the month? Like February 25th.
Oh yeah, of course. They're not going anywhere. Neither of them are going anywhere. Even if Keith has a slightly higher chance of being traded, they're not going anywhere.
Neither one of those guys is going anywhere. You've got let's see. You've got 2 more years. Well, this year plus next year of Corey Crawford. And he's actually back on the ice doing some work, but there's no timetable on when he comes back. But I think
there's not even
I have a feeling he'll be back before the trade deadline, but nothing's guaranteed, and everybody's being mum about this.
I don't even know if he'll be back then. I really don't know.
But with the cap coming, or the trade deadline coming up in like 3 weeks, the Blackhawks, they're going to be sellers. They got to be, right?
Well, yeah. They're not going to be buyers, if that's what we're saying. I don't really know what they're going to sell, but they're certainly not going to be buyers.
Well, they're gonna try to part ways with Keith or Seabrook, but it's not going to happen. I wouldn't even be shocked if they tried to get rid of Crawford, but if he's injured, not going to happen. Most likely names that Marcus Kruger, good chance he's moved. Kunitz, maybe Perlini, John Hayden. He's got to be on the block.
Yeah, he's 23, right wing center. He could play a little of both, and he's under control through next year.
So you've got him under control for, almost the minimum that,
And he's arbitration eligible in 2021.
Yeah, so he's making almost the minimum. And if the Blackhawks don't see him as a productive, viable option as a bottom 6, even if he's young and under control, is move on, get something for him, because there's going to be interest in a John Hayden, in a guy that's that young, making that little money. There's going to be interest. You can get something for him. Cam Ward's got to be a good candidate to get moved, especially if you think Crawford's coming back, because you're going to have a log jam and you're not getting rid of Colin Delia.
Do you think there's going to be a demand, though, for goalies, for contenders? Do you think they're really going to want Cam Ward? I know he's playing better recently, but do you really think teams are going to bite on Cam Ward?
I'm just saying you're going to be floating him, seeing what you can get.
That's
fair. And you've got to try to move somebody from the blue liners, right? Because there's no other reason that you took Henry Giocaharju and move him down to Rockford if you're not trying to showcase somebody you're trying to trade as a defenseman. Because if, Giocaharju is not your best defenseman right now, but he's been pretty solid the whole year, and there's nothing to be gained by him playing in Rockford, other than he got his first North American goal ever. But there's no other reason why you have him playing down in Rockford unless you're trying to showcase somebody that you're trying to trade.
Yeah, that's probably the right idea you have there. Gustav Forsling, maybe? He's only 22, but you think they trade him? He's under salary this year, then he's a restricted free agent next year. I don't think they're going to trade Connor Murphy.
They're not going to trade Gustafson.
No. Slater Cuckoo?
I don't know. They got to get rid of somebody because there's a big log jam.
Dahlstrom? Unless they just send him down and bring Yoki Haru up.
I don't know. I don't know what they do, but it's an odd move there to put him down in Rockford when
Right.
He's playing well.
Right, that's why.
And the other thing I wanted to bring up is, we keep hearing the news that Artemi Panarin is not planning to sign an extension in Columbus and is going to go to free agency. And somehow everybody thinks that means the Blackhawks are going to get him. The issue is not scoring goals. The Blackhawks are scoring a lot of goals. The issue is that can Artemi Panarin play defense? The answer is no.
No, we cannot.
You need defensemen. Your defense is terrible. And even though you're having decent goaltending, you're still giving up a lot of goals because your defensemen are brutally bad. So you're winning by scoring a lot of goals.
Unless the idea is to win every game 9-5 or 9-8.
I mean, if you can win a Stanley Cup winning by scoring that many goals, I will ride with you. It doesn't matter as long as you're hoisting that cup. But the odds of that happening are pretty slim. And, any night where you're a little cold, which always happens, you're just going to look at brutal hockey.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to talk a little bit about more of the forwards, looking forward.
Boom, boom.
You brought up Chris Kunitz. You brought up Marcus Kruger. And I think you probably could trade those guys. They just wouldn't give you much in return. But if you traded those two, that's a little over $3 million, almost $4 million off the books. Now, Artem Anisimov, he was the guy I thought they could have sold last year because Anisimov was coming off a couple 20-plus goal seasons, but this year the numbers are not there, and I think the trade value is way down. Now, he does have a no-trade clause, a modified no-trade clause that started this year. It lists 10 teams that he could be traded to, for those of you who don't know what the no-trade clause modified means, but that's basically what it means. He's under contract until 2021, so he would have a few years of control. Now, I believe next year he won't have any no-trade clause, and you could trade him anywhere next year, but maybe he bounces back next year. I'm just saying right now, the value is not where you would want it to get something significant back for Artem Anisimov.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the thinking is number one, they know that Alex DeBrincat is going to be due a big payday in a year and a half. And if you have guys, they're making any sort of money at all, and they're not part of your future, move on from them. Is Kruger, he's unrestricted free agent after this season, and he's making almost $3 million. Move on from him. I mean, if you could move on from Artem Anisimov, why wouldn't you?
It's almost $5 million a year for the next 2.5 years.
Yep, and he's 30. And Kunitz, it's not the money this year because he's only making $1 million only. In the grand scheme of things, he's only making $1 million, but he's an unrestricted free agent and he's going to be 40. So not part of your future.
Hey, if you could get something for him now instead of just having 1 year where you barely played him, might as well get something.
Yeah, I mean, Brendan Perlini hasn't been bad, but he's also going to be a restricted free agent after this year. You're going to have to pay him. So if you can move on from him, that's what you do. Gustav Forsling, he's going to be a free agent. Move on from him. If he's not part of your core, move on from him.
Here's a question for you. Here's a name I really want to talk about. What do you think they should do with Brandon Saad? Because with Brandon Saad, he's making $6 million this year, next year, and the year after. So 2.5 years left of Brandon Saad under contract. Now, he's played pretty well recently. He's having a bounce back season. He's 1 goal shy of his total from last year, and he's on pace to put up 24, 25 goals. So a pretty typical Brandon Saad season. He's 26. He's under control. You think that they could just go right out and pull the trigger on a trade if they get a good offer, or do you think they want to keep Brandon Saad around?
I don't know what the market is for a Brandon Saad. If you're the Blackhawks and somebody blows you away with a trade, then yeah, you take that trade, honestly, because you've got $11 million or $21 million a year tied up in Taves and Kane. You've got another $12.3 million tied up in Seabrook and Keith. You've got another $6 million tied up in Corey Crawford. That's a lot of money for a handful of players that aren't very, most of them aren't good or past their prime or injured. So if you can get a haul for a guy and get $6 million off the books,
it's a pretty big move.
I mean, sure, it's a pretty big move. You can get something for him. I don't know what the market is for a Brandon Saad. I think he's one of those. I actually read an article where they said, like, who are guys that you can trade for that could be huge moves with low cost. And one of them was Brandon Saad. And I was like, why would the Blackhawks sell low on him? It just doesn't make sense to me.
And especially since, he may not put up spectacular numbers, but he puts up respectable numbers when he's playing well. Like, again, you look at his career averages, they're like 25 goals, so.
Didn't we give up a first-round pick for Antoine Vermette?
Yes, I think we did.
For a rental.
Yeah.
You'd get 2.5 years of Brandon Saad. So, like, yeah, you better get a haul for that.
Especially now, because he's playing well. I think he's got like 4 or 5 goals in his last few games. He had several goals in the last game. So, keep upping that value. And if not, at least prove that it was worth bringing you back, because I love the guy. I really do. He was so clutch in his first go around with the Hawks in the playoffs. And it was really disappointing to see what happened last year, where he just really fell off. And you mentioned Antoine Vermette. His last several seasons, most of his seasons of his career, he had a really great year for a few years, but overall he was a 15, 25 goal scorer. He's kind of like an Antoine Vermette when you just look at the raw goals and assist numbers.
Yeah, maybe.
They're not the same player by any means. I'm just saying, if you look at just production numbers, they're similar.
I had to pull up the stats and take a look.
You have a lot of years with 20 goals, 24 goals, 27, 19, 24. I'm just to your point, is just looking at value here.
Yeah, but you got you traded a first round pick for Vermette for a rental. I just feel like if you're going to part ways with Brandon Saad, you better be selling high.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So should we wrap this up and talk a little bit of Bulls?
Sure, I guess.
So Carmelo Anthony, we finally got our guy that we went so hard after, and we got him like 5 years too late, and maybe 6-7 years too late, and he never played a game for the Bulls. Carmelo Anthony, we hardly knew ye.
He didn't miss a shot, though, with the Bulls. He did not miss a single shot.
But, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. Michael Scott, Wayne Gretzky. But the Bulls are an absolute train wreck. I'm going to try to sum it up here.
Just putting it lightly.
The trade deadline is like 2 days away. Anthony Davis, who's a top 5 player in the NBA, he's from Chicago. He is from here. The Bulls are the team he grew up with. Grew up as a Bulls fan. And he went, nah, I'm not trying to go to Chicago. So even if you go and put together the huge package to bring him here, he's not going to sign an extension with you. So you're going to have him for next season, and he's going to move on to wherever it is he wants to go. And you're going to just be left decimated because you traded everything away to get him. Bad move. So you've created an environment where a guy has the opportunity to go home and play for his beloved hometown team, and he's just like, nah. So that's rock bottom 1. Rock bottom 2 is the reports are that every single player on the Bulls is on the trade block except for Lauri Markkanen and Wendell Carter Jr. So your offseason free agent signing or your contract extension signing, Zach LaVine, that you gave a bunch of money to, is on the trade block. Chris Dunn. So basically, almost everybody you got for Jimmy Butler is on the block. All of your veterans on the block. Everybody is on the block except for those 2. And here's the worst part is, all that said, I still think the future could be bright, except for the fact that the 2 people that you are entrusting to this rebuild on top of rebuild on top of rebuild are the same Nimrods that have gotten you to this point, that have proven that they can't make good trades and they can't make good draft picks, is John Paxson and Gar Forman. So you are entrusting them. And here's the thing is I'm fine with a rebuild. I'm perfectly fine with a rebuild.
Not this rebuild.
Except for the fact that they just keep hitting reset. They're like, no, this is not going how we wanted to. Reset. Well, now we're rebuilding. Like, what have you been doing for the past however many years? You're a terrible team. Stop pressing reset. At some point, you have to get better. You can't just keep getting worse and worse.
It's all okay. So my friends and I, during the boring Super Bowl, were talking about how bad the Bulls are, just to kind of laugh and laugh some more. Remember, the Bulls made trades to get Doug McDermott. Doug McDermott was eventually traded for Cameron Payne, who they said they liked. Just think about that.
So you traded 2 first-round draft picks to get Doug McDermott. So you essentially traded 2 first-round draft picks to get Cam Payne.
Oh, we want guys who can shoot. And all they do is get guys that can't shoot. Oh yeah, let's take Marcus Teague over Draymond Green. Cool. Oh, but we got Jimmy Butler in the trade. You know, we are not in the trade. We got him in the draft. That should make us heroes for life, right?
I'm gonna make that trade worse. So the Bulls traded 2 first-round draft picks to get Doug McDermott. Then they packaged Doug McDermott, Taj Gibson, and a second-round draft pick to get Cam Payne, Anthony Morrow, and Joffrey Laverne.
Yep.
How in the world do you not get fired
Uncle
for that
Jerry
trade?
loves them.
How? How do you not get fired? How? I don't understand. It's so stupid. Just fire those two. I don't care. You could just find like some homeless guy screaming about aliens and put them in that role, and they're going to get similar results.
I can build your team potato salad. Salutes. I'd rather have that.
It's just ridiculous.
It's sick. It's sickening, is what it is. At this point, it's just flat sickening.
So I don't know what it is that you do to get better other than fire these two nincompoops.
Well, that's not going to happen. And if you want to say sell the team, guess what? That's not going to happen either.
Yeah, neither one of those things is happening. It is. Yeah, you're stuck here.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Do you trust them to ever find their way?
No, absolutely not.
Nope.
Yeah, so here we go. So the Bulls traded the number 16 and the number 19 draft picks to get Doug McDermott. Yeah.
I can't do it.
So,
Just no.
So yeah.
Just no.
So no wonder that Anthony Davis doesn't want to come here, is because you're going to have to trade Wendell Carter Jr., your number one pick, probably for the next 2 years, Zach LaVine, Chris Dunn, and who knows what else. So you're going to basically be left with Anthony Davis, Lauri Markkanen, and nobody, and no draft picks to fill in anybody. And that's a worse situation than he is in with the Pelicans. So I just, like, it doesn't make sense for the Bulls to go after him. And I'm fine. I'm absolutely fine if you want to trade Zach LaVine because you don't feel like he's going to be this core for your team. I'm fine if you trade.
He's very one-dimensional, so yeah.
I'm fine with those. I'm just not fine, excuse me, with who is going to be the one that's going to trade them and be in charge of negotiating the trade and getting the best return and then drafting correctly. That's the part I'm not okay with. I'm not okay with John Paxson and Gar Forman having anything to do with that. It's just all of their trades so far. Then they've made a bunch of trades. It's all been for just cash. You traded for Carmelo to get cash. You just traded. Who was the guy they just got? And they traded a heavily protected second round draft pick and got cash considerations. So they're getting.
They did it with Michael Carter Williams.
No, they just had another one too. I forgot who it was. Another guy with a long name. But
I don't know.
So you're just trading to get more cap space, and you don't need more cap space. You have all the cap space in the world.
Do you believe it's Jerry Reinsdorf subsidizing money to the White Sox?
No, it's him subsidizing money to the other owners of the Bulls. That's what it is. They're just lining their pockets. So the Bulls acquired Timothy Luwawu Cabaret, and they traded a heavily protected 2020 second round pick to the Thunder in exchange for him and cash. So they basically just got cash because they're going to retain that second round pick, and they just got this guy in a bunch of money to pay his salary plus some. So that's what the Bulls are doing. So I just feel like I saw something on Twitter. It was just like, yeah, the Bulls are going to trade all of their team for cash considerations.
Hey, at least it gave my brother's podcast a nice name, Cash Considerations.
It's just so ridiculous.
It really is.
But yeah, trade deadline is, I believe, the 6th. So we're like 2 days away. And the Bulls are dropping. By dropping, I mean getting better and not worse like they should be in the tankathon. So now they're the 4th worst record. And the odds that they get the number 1 pick are 12.5%. And they're a game and a half out of having the best odds. So they are behind the Knicks, the Suns, and Cleveland. That's where they're at. And they just like a week ago, they were the 2nd worst, with only just trailing Cleveland. And suddenly now the Knicks are like, hold our beer. We're terrible, and we're going to trade Porzingis. And I know he's injured, but good grief, that's a bad team that's going nowhere. And now the Bulls got to figure out how to be worse than them.
You got to get, if they want a chance at Zion, and they have a lot of space that they could afford 2 max contracts next year.
Yeah, so hopefully the Lakers trade Lonzo to Phoenix, because then maybe Phoenix will win a couple of games there, and the Bulls can move up a little bit. I don't think they can be as bad as the Knicks. Maybe they can top Cleveland and be worse than Cleveland if they trade away everybody. But good grief, this is a team that's just rudderless. I think that's the good way to describe them.
They're at the bottom of the ocean. They're trying to.
They're basically sitting on the Titanic going, nope, everything's fine here. Nothing to see.
Exactly.
Was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, not really.
I think that's going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank everybody so much for listening. Please make sure you hit subscribe however you listen to podcasts, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, or the TuneIn app. Follow us on social media at ChyFanPat1, at Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com, Facebook.com/Swerski Sports. And please share this podcast with at least one person that you know that listens to Chicago or likes Chicago sports, because that's how we grow the show. Thanks so much for listening. And until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like number New Yorkers. Smoking crack is not legal on planes.
Bears 31 to -7.
The Bears.
Oh, when the Bears go berry.